Alright, you read the titles? Let's go ahead and get to work. Today we're going to be talking about the Grimburg Gavle. A little bit of a departure from my normal stuff. This is a less lethal launcher that uses CO2 to fire 68 caliber projectiles. Now this individual launcher is designed for concealed carry, but it can also be used in a duty capacity, for instance law enforcement. Now yeah, this is a little bit of a departure from the firearm centric stuff that I normally do, but generally speaking there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people would consider something like this in the first place. A lot of times this has to do with either job titles or individual states and sometimes entire countries that make carrying a firearm around extremely difficult or impossible. As well as the fact that, well, there are just some folks that, for one reason or another, would just prefer to have a less lethal option as their go-to for a particular situation, whether it be a kinetic projectile or a particular pepper ball or CS mix that they could launch out of, something that they could use as a deterrent or alternative option to lethal force. And of course, this is indeed popular in places like California, Canada, or places that have enormous amounts of gun-free zones. It doesn't require a permit and it's legal basically everywhere. Now, the Gavle in particular fires 8-gram dual kinetic projectiles that are copper and nylon composite at about 36 joules. So, in relative terms, we're firing these things at about 3 times the kinetic energy of a regular paintball gun. Fun fact, when they reached out to me to do this particular video, and oh, by the way, they provided all the materials for this. So, the launcher, the projectiles, all the gas that we use, the pepper balls that we use, that sort of thing. And of course, because of the nature of what I'm about to do during this test, and that would be use it on me, they also elected to sponsor this entire video because it's very likely this is going to be demonetized. That said, during our back and forth as far as correspondence is concerned, one of the first things that I mentioned was, okay, well I can use this on me no problem, and they didn't even realize that I was going to do that. So the very next thing that they mentioned is, hey, watch your range, you can break a rib with this thing pretty easily. Which of course intrigued me a lot, and it intrigued my wife way more, because she's actually doing the shooting during this. Now the thing has an internal magazine that holds 5 rounds and it actually twists in CO2 canisters, so at the very least the gas that you're using to propel these things is pretty reliable. They do in fact make their own holsters for this in both a concealed capacity or in a law enforcement capacity or open or duty capacity or whatever it is that you want to call it. And they're also releasing the Gavle 1.5, which is a bit lighter, it's a bit shorter, and it's got a couple of other extras like slide cuts for red dots, and they do in fact use RDSs for this, as well as some grip stippling for those that are dealing with whatever their issue is and have some sweaty palms. And of course you can pick up the Gavle on their website, which you can check out with this little button that's going to pop up here, and I'll also leave a link for that in the description below. But with that said, and with all the specs that I could just read to you, why don't we just get to the real testing part? And the really cool part is that actionable data that you can just use is way easier for something like this, because unlike the firearms review side of the house where I need to fire thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds to see how that machine works in concert with all sorts of different varieties and that sort of stuff, what's really easy about this is all you really have to do is, well, start using it on a 2-way range to see if it is consistent and reliable. And of course we led this off with just shooting the thing to see if it was consistent and reliable enough to use. Now that little quip that they mentioned about breaking a rib actually intrigued me quite a bit, so the first thing that we did is we stood at a pretty moderate distance of about 10 yards and we shot this thing at essentially our shed to see what would happen to the shed. And when I saw that we dented the shed on every shot that we fired, this sort of cocked an eyebrow even higher. So I decided, okay, well, 10 might be a little close. Let's back up about 5 yards. I'll throw on some layers, whip on a helmet and some goggles, duck my head a little bit, advise my wife that I noticed right away with the Glock sights that are on this that it really does like a 6 o'clock hold, so hold at my soloplex, please. And as far as the kinetic rounds were concerned, okay, let's just go ahead and give it a go, which you can now see here. As you can see, that super sucks, and it leaves a heck of a mark right away. I still feel it right now. And the thing about that is that that's super duper sucked to get shot by at 15 yards. So I have no doubts whatsoever that even if I was wearing the same clothes that I was at that exact moment, if I was at round about 5 yards or so and I got shot by the same stuff, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that it would 110% penetrate me. So it would seem that they're not exactly bluffing about breaking a friggin' rib. I'm glad that I picked 15 yards to start. And then we decided that we were going to go ahead and test out the pepper ball stuff. Now, I've been gassed a lot, both in gas chambers, and I've also had gas launched at me. And the thing about gas or pepper balls or any sort of cloud-based irritant, you notice that regardless to what launcher or whatever it is that you're using is concerned, you are sort of taking a chance here, right? Now, for users and stuff that are involved, you're gonna have to sort of get used to the concept to where if you use gas or sprays, CS anything, pepper ball, whatever mixture it is, if it's designed to be incredibly irritating, there is a big possibility that you are caught in that cloud of irritation. So just like the kinetic projectile stuff, I'm going to go ahead and advise, don't do this at home because it super sucks when everyone involved suddenly starts coughing a whole bunch and suddenly you can't breathe too good. Not that we had any of these issues here except for friggin' me, but that said, there is always a possibility here, especially considering the pepper balls that are launched out of this. Just regardless of configuration, there is a possibility of, as it's being fired, the seal breaks and then the gun gets powdered and then you do and all that other stuff, right? So all those risks are in fact there, but we also decided that we were going to take some extra steps because, again, I've been gassed in various different ways. I've been pepperballed in various different ways, both by grenade launchers or by paintball markers or by guns similar to this. So I was going to protect my eyes, and I was also going to go ahead and cut my friggin' nose and mouth because taking one of these in the teeth super D-duper sucks. And the idea was that my wife was going to shoot me in the chest with this thing. I was going to immediately get engulfed by it and then end up on the friggin' ground. Most likely because I'm blind as a bat. Now, what's interesting about this is that I was hit right in the chest, but sort of instinctively, I just kind of held my breath and started walking off from it. And on the very instant that I started to think, that wasn't so bad, I end up like this, where I'm just taking a knee, leaking stuff out of my face, can't see no more, whole skin on my face is doing the spicy dance. And of course, this is all a big compliment because the product is doing exactly what it's designed to do, and that is really make me not want to do this crap again. So, with that said, I'm gonna say it one more time. Don't do this to yourself. I did it, so you don't have to. Don't do this at home. But at the very least, you can say that this works on a walking, talking human being, right? Rather than just watching some guy blast a steel target in his backyard and be like, ooh, it makes a loud noise. No, I can actually say, like, I can verify this really sucks to be hit by, and it does exactly as advertised. So if you were thinking about an option for this sort of thing for whatever reason that you wanted one for, the option is absolutely there for you. And frankly, that's it. Product works good. Check them out if you want to check them out. And of course, I appreciate these guys for sponsoring this entire video because it's very, very likely that if you turn a less lethal object like this into a two-way range demonstration where you are the intended target, that the video would be immediately demonetized by the algorithm because they're like, that's bad. They look like they're having some sort of fun, or at least one person is, so I hate that. But yeah, check them out if you're interested. That said, if you would like to come out and train with us, you can absolutely do that. We have open enrollment classes scheduled out to December, with more being added pretty soon now that I have a few schedules in place. If you'd like to take a private class with us, all you really got to do is reach out to us and we can start doing the whole how does my schedule work bit there. If you'd like to support us through Patreon, we'd absolutely appreciate that because that really does kind of keep us going through everything. And of course, if you would like to get something out of this, $41 a month will get you as much open enrollment training as you'd like, unless you are taking a private class from us or a logistically challenging class like a soft skin vehicle class or something, for pretty obvious reasons. In addition to this, now I've said this a lot, and for unexplainable reasons I sort of quit saying it, although this policy has never gone away. If you are a teacher or a school resource officer and can provide me some credentials, I am not going to charge you tuition fee ever. If you feel guilty about it, bring somebody with you that will pay me money. But if you're not checking any of that out and you just want to check out our social media stuff, links for all of this, including the website and all that jazz, are in the description below, including the Discord that we recently opened up. But now that all the plugs are plugged in a video that in and of itself is a plug, I'll just go ahead and say this. Remember guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.